Nah, it's just singles. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first of a series of mini scenes for New Orleans by night. We start our scene on December 23rd, 2014, as the campaign against the Sabbat has been going surprisingly well for the Camarilla. The fight at the docks was just the first of many victories that the Ivory Tower managed to chalk up against the Sword King. It came to pass that between the raid towards the end of November and the beginning of December, Sabbat began to pour into the city almost overnight. Disorganized and disadvantaged packs of shovelheads and their leaders of some martial talent have been, they were like waves beating upon a floodgate for a time, but with the intrepid warriors of the Ivory Tower, they were routed and found themselves pushed into the bayou to the east of the city, pushed right onto the brink of lupine territory where they dare not go any closer. As the nights leading up to the final push to wipe out the invading Sabbat comes closer, a single individual within the Ivory Tower, or at least abiding by the Ivory Tower's rules, sits in wait as one of the Camarilla agents has arranged a meeting with her to inform her of her part in everything that is to happen.
Squatting down low underneath one of the swamp trees, the gray tendrils of the tree's arms and the moss filing down, brushing against the side of her hair. She waits at the bottom of the tree, almost like an animal, taking in the scents around her, smelling the dismal dung, the gators, the woods, the water, the salt. Typical, not quite as at home as in the jungle, but always more at home out here, away from the people in the city. She will stay put, obfuscated while smelling everything until she notices something else coming to approach her.
It takes only 20 minutes after the prescribed time that the messenger was supposed to visit her. Perhaps this individual not quite as adept at finding, hidden by the power of obfuscation. All the same, the agent of the Camarilla begins to carefully trudge through the nearly knee-high swamp monk of the bayou, and making a awful ruckus, at least into the eyes of the the one at home with nature.
She'll look at the kindred, being able to move while obfuscated, treading light like the paws of a jaguar, and move closer, keeping enough range, but being sure to not make any sounds that are out of place in the swamp. Just getting close enough to take a look at who or what might be there.
The individual looks to be a young man, dressed in a rather androgynous attire. Seems that there are a few malformities upon his being. His eyes are a very unsettling color. They seem to glow in the light. He comes to the tree where the Amazonian serpent had been laying in wait, and he crouches down and he waits, looking around somewhat apprehensively, coming from a small camp of Camarilla members that are some miles away on the other side of the bayou, watching and waiting to see if any of the members of the Sabbat try to slip out past them to get back into the city, perhaps to come up behind the war band that is supposed to arrive tomorrow evening.
She'll come up behind the gentleman and speak first before breaking her obfuscate, but far enough away so as to not, make it seem like she's gonna jump him. And says, "You make more noise than those stinking humani." And she'll come back out of her obfuscate, also looking pretty androgynous. She's about 5'8", Hispanic. Her hair, looks like it does in the picture, shaved, dressed almost like a male. No bra, flat-chested. Almost looks, like she's been in a couple rougher tumbles, as if maybe she was a, leaning towards gang member kind of a thing, but someone who knows her ways around the streets.
The young male goes rigid in his spine. Perhaps you hear even a few vertebrae popping slightly as the muscles in the pack tense up so tightly. The person seems to steel themselves, almost as if trying to keep from falling into the red fear just by the sudden surprise of a voice emanating that close to him without being able to see and approach. And he turns around, and those eyes glow as he looks at her. "Oh, sorry. I didn't realize you were here."
So she'll kind of cock her head to the side and crack a couple of the neck bones. Not being one for florid conversation like her counterparts in the Camarilla.
The word is that we go tomorrow evening. The prince is calling up his forces, and we will be laying an assault on them tomorrow. If anybody surrenders between now and tomorrow evening, they will be treated as prisoners of war. Any that don't are to be wiped out tomorrow.
Do you have an estimate on their forces?
Several dozen. The way I've heard is that you all have been shredding through them in the past few weeks.
She'll tilt a smile kind of to one side and says, "Shredding indeed. They get towards my swamp, they don't last that long."
Prince Blythe is pleased with the actions of those that have participated. I'm sure that he'll reward all of you for defending our city.
Well then, is there anything else?
No. Are you going to keep your forward position here all evening, or shall we make accommodations for you to have a place to go to ground?
I don't need to go inside.
He nods, kind of looking down at his now waterlogged jeans in some disgust. Very well then. Good luck to you tomorrow out there.
Luck is not a factor. It's experience and training, and a little bit of blessings. She'll almost kind of reach and grab one of the, she's got one of those necklaces that has a couple different sets of bones around it, and almost in a very Catholic way, the little tiny chain that's got a cloth medallion on it that would normally be for like a saint or something like that.
Fortunately, I'm afraid I lack experience and skill. I'm just a good messenger.
You'll be a dead messenger if you don't start working on the other part. Get on
Maybe.
out of the swamp, kid. You look like you're getting soggy.
Yes, ma'am. He says, kind of stammering over his words as he stands up, taking a few steps, keeping his eyes on her before stumbling and actually going ass first into the swamp water.
Yeah, and as he's going out, she kind of squats back down towards like the swamp level and ends up just, using Eyes of the Beast to see perfectly in the darkness. So if he looks back, he's going to end up seeing like the red glowing eyes almost just kind of peering out from behind one of the trees.
You can hear him make a audible shiver, or sound of an audible shiver, as he stands back up and shakes himself off, trudging back through the swamp water towards, well, the muddy shores, but at least not knee-deep in water. As the evening wears on, one or two individuals you can see off to the distance make their way to the main Camarilla camp to surrender. Um, you notice that one of them is actually outright murdered on the spot as opposed to being taken captive as per the orders. But the other one is, who comes a bit later, is taken. But as the night wears on, it is fairly uneventful. The sun begins to rise over the horizon, and I'm sure that Chochu is going to go to ground.
Yeah, Xotchitl would definitely earth meld that jonks.
The day seems uneventful with your ability to perceive some things as you are melded into the earth. You can feel the presence of a few fan boats going by, which is not unusual considering that the bayous are a nice big tourist attraction. Every now and then you might feel an alligator settle down upon where you've taken a chance to meld into the earth. But all in all, a fairly uneventful day. You do feel the rumbling of heavy work trucks on the nearby raised highway, or maybe not so much a highway, but a byway, that leads into some of the settlements just on the edge of the water. But other than that, you don't feel anyone trudging through the swamp. You don't get the sense that maybe ghouls are going in to try and save their hapless masters. As the sun begins to go down on the eve of Christmas, you start to perceive activity coming from the city as ghouls that are skilled enough to fight alongside their dominators begin to come into the Camarilla camp. And soon the sun does set over the western horizon.
So after it sets over the atmosphere, she'll meld up with the rest of the earth. The hardness of her form almost kind of melting back into the soft mud, and then solidifying itself as arms and legs as she pulls her head up just above the water, kind of disoriented for the first few seconds as she's reacclimating to becoming back into a physical form again, and then looks back over to the Camarilla camp. She'll probably make her way a little bit closer towards the camp, but still within the outskirts, obfuscated, so that she can observe what's going on.
You see a few familiar faces. You don't happen to see Leif Erikson or Chris Hanash or Miss Gia amongst them, some of the individuals that you had moderate dealings with, at least after the raid on the boat. But you do see a few familiar faces around. You notice that the young man that you saw last evening is actually among them, holding a weapon of all things, seeming as though Maybe he's taken Chochu's words to heart and has decided to test his mettle here.
She'll watch them, never one to kind of just jump into everything and see what they're doing. This is Camarilla affairs in the first place, and she stayed on the sidelines for long enough to know that you want to let the political people ruffle their feathers while you do the important work.
As the wee hours of the night begins to wear on, they wait for word over radios. The forces of the Camarilla spread out over several different camps along the edge of the bayou into its territory. As you sit there, you can hear the Sabbat war crying themselves, working themselves up into a frenzy to try and bolster their morale, though it does seem, from where you stand, at least half-hearted, as though they know what's about to happen to them. The young man seems to be tense and nervous as he clutches on to the grip of his assault rifle very tightly, his knuckles turning white as he looks off into the distance. He lets out a big sigh, trying to relax himself, and you notice that he pulls out his cell phone, perhaps maybe to send a text to someone that he knows, maybe saying goodbye, maybe checking his Twitter feed for all we know. But he looks perplexed as he looks at his cell phone, tapped it a few times, and makes a face before shrugging and placing it back into his pocket. And then finally, one of the leaders of the war band stands up and walks to the front. An older-looking man, perhaps at the time of his embrace in his late 40s, early 50s. He has sort of silver fox gray streaks in his otherwise dark raven-colored hair. And he seems to be wielding a scimitar-like saber, and he holds it above his head. And he speaks with all the authority of a member of Clan Bruja. You can feel the wave of presence coming off of him as he bolsters his ranks. Several months ago, I did not know many of you. And many of you I wouldn't have considered allies or even capable of fighting in this fight. But over the past month, you all have proven, in your own way, that you're valuable beyond words to the campaign against the Sabbat of the Ivory Tower. I don't ask you to go out there and be a hero. I only ask that everybody works and no one quits. Everybody does their job tonight. And if everybody holds true to that, I do believe that most of us will make it home. Who's ready to stand with me?
Say in the meantime, while they're going through the rest of that speech, she will move a little bit closer to their set. If I can find the darn page for the weather thaumaturgy, I was gonna make a little bit of a weather bit to kind of roll in some fog for him while he's doing his speech.
What level of weather control are you using?
3.
Weather
I think
control.
yeah, I've got 3. I think it's in the 212s or something.
Thaumaturgy, weather control.
Where'd you go?
You just, I guess you just roll your willpower.
There's weather control. Okay, it's on 228. Found it. Fabulous. Cool. Alright, let's do this. Dice, please. There it is. Well, there's a 7 there.
So it takes a little while to roll in, but you will be able to put a fog over the area. So it's something.
Yeah, I mean, I could technically do high winds with 3 dots, but, you know.
Yeah. It'll take about, we'll say, 20 minutes or so for the fog to completely condense the way you want it, but you will start to notice that at the edge of the water, a fog begins to creep up out of the water as though the water's gotten colder than the air around it.
Yeah, the fog gives a +1 difficulty on perception rolls for sight and hearing, and also effective range of the range attacks are halved. So.
Yeah. So, seeing this, the Bruja will activate his power of Auspex, taught to him by various members of the clan. And as he looks around, he does seem to notice you, sort of looking at you and raising a chin in your direction.
Yeah, I mean, she'll have her red glowy, nighttime eyes on so that he'll know that she's looking around. And as she stays kind of crouched by the tree, just watching from a distance. And then as he looks over, like, even though she's obfuscated, you know, it's like the red eyes are just staring, right at him. And it's like she knows he saw through the obfuscate.
He seems to smirk and then turns about as finally over the radio you hear a "all forces are go." And he hands the radio over to the young man, who takes it with a shaky hand. And they begin to trudge out into the swamps.
Well, do I want to shift now? Yes, no, maybe. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead while they're trudging out into the swamps, and after they're taking that, take my spin my blood point and do my transformation into my cat form. Spending blood. Oop. Okay. So it takes me, a good 15 seconds or so to shift. I suppose you can probably still do that while obfuscated because you're not moving or anything.
Really, I mean, if you've got Obfuscate 2 at least, you
I
can.
do, yeah.
Yeah. If you got that at the very least, yeah, you can do that while moving. So, yeah, you can. Is your cat a jungle type cat or more of a,
It's more of a jungle type cat, more like a jaguar style. So basically, it ends up doing the same.
Is this your fight form?
Yeah, the same strength +1 aggravated damage and run at double speed, and the difficulty of perception rolls are reduced by 2. So it's the same stats as the wolf form.
Okay. I would say actually your claws in a cat form. For jungle type cats, I'd actually give it a +2 as opposed to a +1.
I'm not gonna argue.
Those claws are a little bit more prolific, I think, than a wolf's.
Yeah.
So as you make your way through into the bayou, you notice that there are other gangrel or those with the gift of protean that have taken into their fight form. Some of them have taken on the form of a wolf. Most of them have. Some have taken on that of a bear. But in the end, the company, makes its way in, and by this time you can see the other companies are off in the distance making their own treks. And as you come up deeper and deeper into the bayou, you notice what look to be, well, dilapidated riverboats that have been turned into something of a stilted shantytown around there. And you can see the members of the Sabbat. They're standing there brazenly, brandishing their weapons. They're cheering and thumping their chests, calling out, howling and snarling, baring their fangs. Those of them that are gifted with protean have their claws out, and they're looking as vicious as any number of the gangrel working with the camarilla. You notice individuals in these large, grotesque forms that, if you were familiar with the Zamisi, maybe you would know as a Zulo form. But regardless, as you break the 100-meter line of their perimeter, they jump over the edges and begin to charge forth, coming at you with, well, the zeal that one might expect out of the spot, out of a death cult, an end times cult, an apocalypse cult, a Gehenna cult. And they break upon the various companies with all the ferocity that one might expect, all the ferocity that you have seen over the past few weeks. You notice that the young man that was at your, or that you met last evening, in a panic, he unloads an entire clip into one of the oncoming shovel heads, which does some damage, but not much. But he seems to follow it up with a stern blow with the butt end of the gun, swinging it from the barrel like it is a bat or some kind of flail.
So kind of just growl at his in that general direction with a like a growl of noob disgust, and end up pouncing onto the one that was coming at him. Not using celerity yet, but just going in and doing a claw attack on that thing.
And you're able to jump on the member of the spot's back, and the young man kind of falls back into the water onto his ass again and looks up in sort of a bewildered surprise at this sudden attack of a jaguar. And he quickly pulls a knife from his belt and stands back up to try and attack the member of the spot. But when he tries to drive it into the man's stomach, it does very little to him. The blade barely even pierces the skin, and whoever you're pounced upon clearly has the discipline of fortitude at his side.
Well, that's good, because I've got ag claws.
Well, you're free to attack.
I will. Let's see, do I have him pinned at this point, or?
You have him in as much of a clinch as an animal can really put somebody in.
Sweet.
So I'd say it's like a difficulty 5 to get a claw attack in.
Let's do. We've got. She's not being particularly swift or precise with this right now. She's just going. So Dex plus what do we have? Brawl.
Dex plus brawl, yeah.
8 plus my celerity dot because I'm not using it. So let's take the 9 out. 1, 2, 3, 4 successes.
All right. Translate into I think strength plus 5.
Strength plus 2. So yeah. So 4 successes. Yeah. So 5. Strength is 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think you're actually at 6.
Okay, then I put another die in here. Boom. Lots of 4s. Oh well.
Alright.
So that would be aggravated damage.
Well, let's see what his ag soaking ability does for that. Well, he soaks one of them. So he howls out and hisses in pain, he starts spinning around trying to throw you off. And he starts swinging wildly, and as he does so, he puts a bit of potence into his next attack, and as he tries and reaches for it, he flails, and he actually catches the young man on the side of the face with a potence punch, which seems to dislocate his jaw rather quickly.
Is he going to have to get out of the clinch first, or?
He's just kind of flailing around. He's actually trying to hit you, and he really can't. He kind of incidentally knocks the kid over. But you're free to attack him again.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and let's do a celerity go on that one, too. So I'll grab it for 2 goes here. So Dex 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus brawl. Tick, tick, tick. And you said 5 because we're in the clinch. So the first go has 3, so that's going to be an extra 2 dice. 1, 2, plus my strength. 1, 2, 3, plus 2 for the claws. Chick, chick. And ones don't cancel stuff, though. Ha ha.
They do cancel, but you can't botch a damage roll.
I don't think they cancel damage, though.
I think they do.
Let me check that shit. They just don't count, I think. But in either case, it's at least 2. So while I'm looking for this. Damage 284, 286. So yeah, so she'll reach in and take the claws and just fly around on the one side, and then the second one for the celerity action will be on the other side when she gets that done. Applying damage. Here we are. Yeah. This is just telling me how to apply damage. It's not telling me about the rolls.
Yeah. I think in the past couple of seasons that we did in New Orleans, they did do ones take out of damage. So we'll stick with that for now. But he did manage to still do another point of ag damage to him because he did soak with his 1 fortitude.
And I'm about to get him again here. But celerity action goes after his attempt to escape.
Alright, he is going to try and this time throw you off, so it'll be a contested strength plus brawl.
Well, I do pretty well on that.
Yeah. He does not. He seems to... all of his efforts seem to be doo-doo. As he tries to grab at your fur, and he maybe gets a handful of it, but his fingers being wet and muddy just can't really gain any purchase. He seems to be in just a futile state of trying to get out of your grasp, now somewhat injured.
Gonna get your negatives. Okay, so now he's tried to escape. She's just moving faster than he's able to see, coming back at him with an additional swat.
Holy Jesus.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Do you happen to have specialty claws in your brawl?
I have swift and precise, so the second one is a celerity attack, so that kind of is swift.
If you're going for a called shot, I'd definitely give that one to you.
I mean, I don't care either way. I don't have to, so 5's still a lot. That adds an extra 4.
That's an extra 4.
4 plus my 2 for my claws plus my strength. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, you might get him on this turn, depending on how well his soak goes.
And now it's going to suck more, because he's probably got negatives.
He doesn't soak it. You ash him as your claws just kind of cross over his chest. You dig deep enough in his chest that you actually tear that rib, or the front of his rib cage right off, and his eyes go wide as he arches his back and kind of howls out in pain, but before the air can even escape his dead lungs, he's starting to ash from the center outwards, and his eyes just fix as before this skeleton just falls to the ground, and the ash mixes with the water, making it gray and even more murky than it was before. And the young man kind of huffs, looking at you in amazed bewilderment, and he just kind of smiles at you as he
She finishes the pounce, and as it ashes, kind of spins herself around and just goes back and like does the fur lick, and then turns its head and its cat body back around, and almost kind of looks like its teeth are smiling a little bit as the red eyes keep glaring, and then just licks the rest of the blood off of its mouth.
He can't help but smile back as he reloads his automatic weapon. Wow, you're pretty friggin' amazing.
It just kind of like makes a growling noise since it can't actually talk right now.
And he'll turn and kind of go into the fray where some of the other members of the Camarilla are dispatching these shovelheads with relative ease. The older Bruja seems to be going up against the Zulo form and fighting with all the grace of a traditional sword fighter, someone you might have known or someone you might have seen in a movie taking place in ancient Europe or Scotland. As he moves the scimitar with just a grace and ease that just, well, lets you know as a fellow warrior his ability and skill. As the individuals of the Sabbat continue to fight and lose everything, the fighting winds down as the last few are surrounded, but they don't surrender, and it doesn't seem that the members of the war parties are willing to give them any quarter. The young man sort of stands at your side, kind of glad that he made it through it alive, as he lifts the rifle and rests it on his shoulder, looking rather triumphant and accomplished. At least he feels that himself, and he looks down at you. We did it. It's
And
at
it
that.
almost take its head and kind of like headbutt it into its knee, but not in a mean way.
He'll crouch down onto one knee and kind of offer up his hand in like a fist bump.
It'll just take a paw and go like that, but the claws are retracted, but it's still a pretty heavy, like, paw.
He makes a grimace but holds his hand firm, and then the second he turns away, you can notice he's shaking his hand out. And in that moment of triumph, everything seems like it's gone very, very well.
She kind of wonders if the spray of the battle was all there was to it, or if the Sabbat, who've been known to be deceptive, are hiding something else. She'll keep her ears open over the rest of the battlefield while listening to what's going on. She's trying to see if the chaos is done for now.
Perhaps it was the fray and the sound of the gunfire that kept it from coming to your ears, but you know quickly that you're not alone, as floodlights on the opposite end from large vehicles that are made to travel throughout the bayou and off-road come from behind you no less than 500 meters away, and they flood over the water, the murky water, and the individuals of the Camarilla fighting parties. You notice that there must be close to 70 individuals coming off of these vehicles across the line, the battle line that had been drawn by the Camarilla and the Sabbat rabble. And you can see various shapes and forms among them, but everyone seems to be armed, or you may be able to see the hint of claws off in the distance. You notice that your fog seems to roll away as though a brisk wind seems to be picked up by a supernatural force, mimicking your own in a way.
She gets flashbacks from a very long time ago of a completely different army rolling over the swamps and the islands, coming to conquest their land. and how they had to flee and retreat before. One of the worst days as a proud warrior, but one of the wiser ones that let her continue on for another night. She flinches her eyes a little bit in the brighter light and almost growls to the mortal, presuming not the mortal, but the other kindred guy, presuming that he's probably not got celerity, and motions to be able to, being a big ass cat. I mean, she can probably carry him with her strength, if she needs to buck up and get the fuck out of here.
As you buck up, he looks at you, and his eyes say it all. There's panic there. And he looks down at you and then looks back up at them. We can't win this. There's so many.
She'll growl at him and, move to, spin around in a circle real quick, make a head motion like she's about to go, and then line up on the side of him so that he can, being a cat that's up past waist level, bigger than a giant-ass mastiff, as if he wants to take a ride, he's welcome to, but if not, she'll probably leave him to his own devices.
The gentleman, Bruja, comes up to stand with the others, and you can see the young man seems to be sort of lost in thought for a moment. But it's at that point that a gentleman steps forward from the company looking at you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to see that you received my friends and compatriots so well. It seems that you showed them, well, hospitality other than that of the South. So I thought it would only be fair if me and my fellows here were to return the favor. And I do hope that you enjoy, well, the current holders of New Orleans, its new masters. And with that, he holds his hands together above his head and claps them together. And you notice that 5 individuals that were flanking him step forward and they seem to interlock arms. And their bodies seem to congeal together, growing up a large form.
She growls at it, having known what these things are before, seen these monstrosities in older battles, the things that humans would tell stories of and dream in legends. But she knows that they're not legends, they're nightmares.
And it's like that the Sabbat Party breaches into the swamps, many of them moving with celerity, the hodgepodge of disciplines that they hold at their beck and call displayed. They seem to move in formations far better trained than those which you've been cutting down over the past few weeks. The large Xotchitl being seems to move with a preternatural grace that should not be for a creature its size, but it moves quickly nonetheless. The young man seems to grab a hold of your fur as he errs on the, well, discretion is the better part of valor anyway, as he climbs atop of Xotchit's shoulders.
She will move to get him far enough away from the beast and out to safety, being able to move at twice move speed. Plus, she's got celerity, so probably going pretty darn fast here to get him out of the vicinity, knowing that being a scrub, he's not going to be able to deal with this much.
As you're moving along, you do manage to get away from the main line of fighting. The large Gestalt seem to focus more on the larger bands of fighters. You notice that even as he may be outmatched in size and possibly strength, the Bruja, the older Bruja, comes in a flurry. All you can see is the glint of his blade in the moonlight just cutting into the Gestalt. But he disappears as the beast turns its massive body and leaves his fate to you unknown. A few gangrel try and break formation to cut you off, but your speed seems to outweigh there. And as they see that it's a hapless endeavor, perhaps that you're, at least in their minds, cowardly running away, that you're no threat, and they quickly dart back into formation. And as you're running along, I need you to make me a Dex Athletics roll. With a person on your back, it's going to be difficulty 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, that 9 gets canceled out by like 3 ones.
Well, it's not a 5. You do have one success. But as you are running along, something raises up from underneath the water, knocking you airborne, sending the young kindred off of your back, and he lands into the water probably some 10 feet from you. You go end over end and kind of land in the water roughly with a fairly heavy impact. You might notice that you've... go ahead and roll your soak. You're going to need to soak 2 lethal.
Stamina 2, 3. All the ones!
So you take 2 lethal.
Okay.
As it felt like something cut into you as you were ambushed. And rising up out of the water is a individual that has greatly altered its form. That squares off with you, smirking. Well, well, well. They told us no survivors, and I'm not letting you escape.
It's going to growl at him. Like, what does his altered image end up looking like?
Like this of a spider. This creature here.
Got it. Just gonna growl at that thing and end up the guy who got thrown off the back. You know, he's at his own devices. Good luck there, bro. And go and jump in on this thing.
Okay. I'll let you have first attack on this one.
Okay. She's gonna go ahead and use celerity. So take down that other dot right there. And 1, 2, 3, and moving in as she starts, making the mocking noises. She's going to just attempt to get the automatic jump on her before she even has a chance to respond with the rest of her "I'm a bad guy" monologue. You know, gonna jump in swiftly and just lunge at the let's try and go take out her bottom legs first, just like lunge from one set of the bottom and then claw at the other one, hoping to eventually, take her off her feet or do enough damage to injure.
Alright. If you're going to do a called shot, specifically trying to take the leg off, it will be a difficulty 8 to attack.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do manage to do 5 successes on an attack, you will lock that appendage right off, or 3 successes. You'll lop it right off.
Cool. Okay, let's do that for this first one. See how it goes. Alright, so that makes 8. Well, the 1 cancels out my 10 and cancels out my 8, so this one sucks. All the ones.
Alright, she is going to follow up with her own strike. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is strength, which is 3. And the 2, and then the Zulu form bonus. There we go. Well, probably didn't hurt all that bad, depending on how well you soak. Could have been a lot worse.
Well, that depends. Well, Soaking 2.
So you're now at 4 damage.
Oh, hold on, I can't see how many you got there.
You
So
got
that would
3.
be 3 damage then, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. 3. That. So
Okay.
she comes at you with her clawed arms, and you notice that her claws. Perhaps you were expecting these wounds to burn like that of another individual with protean, but you quickly assess that these are only bony protrusions, and that this, well, what you could only assume as a Zamisi, is not gifted with protean, which makes her vastly less dangerous than you in many respects.
Yeah, she's gonna do her second celerity attack and just attempt to connect, not really trying to swipe after the first fail. Well, that does better. So, are we still counting the 5s with the?
No, you don't have
We're
her
not fog
claws.
anymore. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's 3. So I'm gonna add an extra 2. So I've got strength plus 2 for my claws, plus 2 for my successes. Well, that would be 2 if we're canceling it out with 1s.
You do manage to do two aggravated on her because she does not have fortitude.
Oh,
She,
well, that's handy.
she hisses in pain at you as she stumbles back, growling and snarling. And it's at that point you hear sort of a splashing in the water behind you. And then he's got a 5 in firearms and dex. And then if he goes full auto, that's another 10 dice. And it's difficulty 8 for full auto. He's going to shout, Chochu, get down!
She hears that, and will go ahead and hold her action for this go. I'm presuming she's probably faster than him, so that she
By
can let
leaps and
him.
bounds.
Yeah, so that she can let him shoot first. And I probably will. Oh, I had lethal, didn't I?
Yeah.
So you can 1 dot heal the bashing up to however many levels you have with your stuff. Lethal, I think, is 1 for 1, and you can only spend the 1 each turn.
As I remember it, it's you roll your stamina and survival, and then you can spend as many points of blood to heal damage as you have successes.
Up to your limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she'll probably do some of that here in a hot second, after he does his firing.
Well, he only gets 2 successes. So that is 6 plus 1, so 7 dice, which is bashing. Well, he manages to do 1, 2, 3. He managed to do 2 bashing to her, which is enough. So that's 4 damage she has total. As she stumbles back, being somewhat haggard by being shot by this upstart. And she hisses, and she's going to roll for frenzy. Be a difficulty 7 for her. And she fails it, so she actually completely ignores you. She almost jumps over you and charges at the young kindred, who now believes he has made poor life choices.
That's okay. I'm going to take advantage of those poor life choices and use that time to heal myself. So stamina plus what?
Stamina plus survival.
1, 2. Okay, well I do good on that one.
How many blood can you spend a turn?
A 3, but I'm only going to use 2.
Alright.
Which means I'm going to take myself back down to bruised.
Which is no penalty, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And would you like to blood buff for your next attack?
No. I'm trying to conserve here. I got 6 in the bank and don't want to burn them all yet.
Okay. Well, then you have an attack of opportunity, so to speak. You have an extra, or you have a reduced difficulty on your next attack, because her back
Actually,
is
I
to
was
you.
gonna see if, since she's coming around, if I could go into obfuscate first and then take the attack of opportunity with the bonus of coming from stealth. And
Sure. Go ahead and
probably
roll
harder
your.
to go into obfuscate, but she's probably not paying attention either. So
No, she's totally in frenzy right now. Go ahead and go into obfuscate. All you have to do is just make a successful unseen presence roll.
okay, which is going to be stealth plus manipulation, right?
I believe so.
One, two,
Just
three.
double check.
Yep.
Oh, obfuscate.
Yep. Boop. Bip. Bop. Mission success.
Yeah. All right then. Well then.
So now I get extra stuff.
Yeah, and she is going to spend 2 points on celerity. She's gonna fuck this guy's day up.
Well, she gets to fuck his day up first, so. Because I just took my turn and is she on hers right now? Her celerity actions?
Now she's on her first action, like her main action, and that's strength plus the Zulo to do plus the to this young man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, let's see how his soak goes. He takes 5 points of lethal
Oh, shit.
in one hit.
A scrub.
So she brings those arms down on him and just claws him across the chest. He screams out in terror and pain as he falls back into the water, trying to backpedal, kind of crab walk away from her. And he kind of shouts, "Choshu, please!"
She's probably going at him again here.
Well, that's her main action. No, you used your main action,
Yep,
so
I used my stuff to heal on that go, and I'm not using celerity this round, so there she be.
well, all I can say is you did try. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's see if he manages to soak at least one of those. He's got to soak at least 3 of them to stay alive. Oh, no, 4 of them to stay alive.
I got nothing for you, buddy.
Well, you did try. That's the important thing. He screams out, kind of reaching out for the position he last saw you. But too little, too late, as his head comes clean off of his body, flying away and ashing in midair as his skin and clothing burns away, and all you see is that skeletal feature kind of falling back into the water as it slowly breaks apart. And the creature huffs as she comes out of her frenzy over the skeleton that's breaking apart in the water, growling and snarling, chittering like a spider might.
So, since she has no idea where the hell I am, I'm gonna go ahead and use my stealth stuff first here, which means I get extra. I can't remember what extra I get. I never play characters that have stealth.
For every turn you lay in wait, you get an extra point. So you're at a reduced difficulty, and you get an extra dice of attack.
Cool. Well, that's basically 6 seconds, so I might stay out for just a minute here just to keep her confused so that I can get some extra dice, for like a couple of seconds, since she's finished disengaging him.
What's your obfuscate level?
2.
2? Oh, she might be able to spot you. I forget. I gotta look at Auspex because it's Auspex that has the rules for seeing through. Escape versus aspects. You know what? I don't have the thing up for right now, so I'm going to say she can't see you.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. It's perception plus awareness against your manipulation subterfuge.
Okay.
And for her, it is a... Okay. It's just standard.
Tries to be the defender. It sucks. It's always sucked for me as the obvious user.
Well, she gets 4 successes, so she keys in on you, so that element of surprise you had for just a bit ago is no longer there, but she does turn as she scans, and she seems to key in on you as she comes lumbering towards you. Still quite injured, though.
Well, I'm just gonna use my, swift attack here just to go boom right at, her midsection and just like pounce on the fucking body here. Since stealth is no longer a thing.
You can spend blood for celerity if you want.
No, I don't want
Unless, of
to.
course, you're trying to keep her from ashing, in which case you might be able to put her in torpor. Om nom nom.
So, I'm getting there. Hold on. 5. 1, 2, 3 for brawl, and my 9th die because I'm not using celerity this go around. So, I'm being swift though. So it's either 4 or 5 if you want to count it, 'cause I'm taking out the other 10.
I'll give you 5 for now.
So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, plus my strength, plus the 2. 1, 2, 3.
That's 3 ag damage. That is 7 aggravated damage you've done to her. So as you lunge into her, what do you do to this body as it's going to ash as you destroy it?
She's going to go ahead as she moves in on there, as she grapples the rest of the body on it, like kind of interlocking her legs with the rest of the spider bitch's legs, and then just lunge on over to her neck as if she's going to just like rip off her throat and like shred the head over to the side, just like you would with an animal like destroying its prey.
In a shower of blood and gore, you're covered from nearly head to toe as the blood just rushes out of this Zulos-formed Zamisi.
She needs more blood to drink here too, because I'm down to like 6. So.
Well, unfortunately, the body has pretty much hashed on you. You're down to 6. Is that below half?
No.
Okay. Well, you won't go into a hunger frenzy then. But you are your tummy's rumbling. But regardless, the blood just washes over you before you feel the heat of the body disintegrating underneath of you. And then finally, you are sort of dropped to the ground as its body breaks apart and the ash falls away into the wind. Skeleton crumbling next to where your compatriot that you did attempt to save had fallen just a moment ago.
It's like she looks back over to the spot where he was, and he's just out, or he shredded in 2, huh?
He ashed.
Oh well, don't have to bring that body
Oh,
back.
wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. That's rollover. She doesn't have ag claws. He's still alive. I mean, he's in torpor, but he's still alive.
Yeah, I was like, wait, should I close? So she will go ahead and like nudge underneath of the body, and then bring that back up onto her back as best she can. Probably has to move a little bit slower now to bring it around, but try to head it back to the city.
All right. You make your way. You can hear the fighting going, but the sounds of a larger party than what you remember going out with, shouting in victory, seems to come forth from the bayou as you leave it behind. You can only assume that against forces of Gestalt blood brothers and other beings that can control shadow and other flesh crafters like what you encountered likely did their number on the warband. As you come into off the shore onto the muddy banks, you notice that there are a few members of the Camarilla that you can see, some of them injured beyond recognition. Some of them missing parts of their faces, others with limbs detached. You notice that one is being carried that has no legs, sort of piggyback style on its compatriot's back as they wander back towards their raised war camp. And when you look into the city, you can see that several buildings are on fire, amass a blacked out city, the power grid seemingly having gone down.
She can see perfectly fine in darkness with her night vision eyes. And we'll just try to see if she can get herself back over to a grouping of the other Camarilla kindred. Obviously, if she has to get too close to the city, she's going to have to change back, but she can move faster in this form for now until she gets too close to the city.
You notice a young man and a young woman, the woman without legs and the young man missing an eye, but they sort of collapse next to off to the bushes that lead up to the road. You notice that there are several dump trucks that have had the gravel just spilled out of them along the road that have been left behind.
Does it look like they're like piling people in it?
No, these weren't there when you left before. And the doors have been left wide open. You can see like discarded like bullet casings and things of that nature, as though people were readying supplies there. You can see crates open that once housed ammunition and
So it's
weapons.
probably where they came out of.
Yeah.
Setting him down for a second, she'll hop up in there and just check to see if there's anything useful, or see if there's any clues to sniff out.
You can smell the blood and the smell of just the dead kindred, or Canite in this case. You can smell like the heavy scent of maybe some crystalline meth in the cabin, and probably a pipe left there.
Just kind of shake her head with that, and then hop back off, grab the body again here, and then try to see if she can't move him over to the other two.
Yeah, man. As you get close, you can actually hear his heart beating, so it's fairly clear that he is not a ghoul, or not a kindred, but rather a ghoul.
She will move on over and just growl at the general direction and look with the person that she has on her back.
He kind of pants as he looks at you. Any other survivors? And you can see he's kind of clutching a pistol, wary of you.
She will drop the body kind of over onto the side and then just make one of those like noises and then just kind of nudge it towards him.
The young woman seems to nod knowingly and kind of bites into her wrist to drop blood into the young man's mouth. And it takes a few moments, but he comes up and his eyes open, and with potence she seems to hold him down as he starts to frenzy. His eyes turn, well, even more red than they are, and blood foam kind of forms at the sides of his mouth as he starts snapping at her arm, trying to get a bite of it.
Take the paws and just go onto the front of his body.
And it takes a moment, but he finally kind of calms down as he reins the beast in, and he groans as he sits up, now at, 6 damage, so at that mauled or crippled point. And he looks at Chochu, and he looks grimly at her. Is this all that made it?
Kind of a growl in acknowledgement.
He lowers his head, and it's at this point that a van pulls up not too far away. It's a van that you might have recognized. It's Leif Erikson's van. And it pulls up, and the door opens. And one of the ghouls of the city, you've seen him in various functions at the Camarilla, he hops out. He's got a shotgun slung over his shoulder as he comes to the legless kindred and helps the other ghoul load her into the van. The young man stands up weakly, kind of hunched over, holding his side, which is, for the most part, missing. He looks down at Chochu. Are you coming?
She will take a moment here to go ahead and, knowing that the battle seems like it's pretty much over at this point, yeah?
Well, yeah. Probably the ghouls are hurrying everybody. You can see other vans down the way, picking people up along the road. You can hear sort of a desperation in the voice. You can hear words of, has ordered, in the middle of a conversation, has ordered a full retreat. The city's taken.
Yeah, she'll go back into her human form, pretty much mind, because there's nobody else here other than, them, but it may still freak the shit out of the human if they haven't seen it before, but ghouls, whatever, give zero fucks. And shifts back into her, mohawk tattooed self with all of her tribal tattoos and things everywhere, back to like this, 5'3" Hispanic lady, and creaks her neck, and then motions to go in towards the vehicle. Where are you taking him?
We're going across the Pontchartrain into Lewisburg.
She'll think is looking, knowing a little bit of the terrain. Is that like the next city over? Or?
Lake Pontchartrain is a very large lake that New Orleans rests upon. It's actually kind of a center for commerce, and it's up on a very large levee that leads into the city itself. Lewisburg is one of the more one-horse towns on the other side, sort of like a one-horse suburbia. The biggest attraction is a Walmart, movie theater, and a skating rink.
She will, night's still young. She'll go ahead and get in with them and just kind of sit next to the decrepit I keep thinking he's immortal because he sucks. The decrepit NPC guy. And just kind of doesn't say a whole lot of much. She'll, twirl her little necklace for a bit and get into the vehicle with them as she looks back over kind of the rest of the battlefield area.
You can notice that the entirety of who survived seems to be carried away in a caravan of 3 nondescript vans, so likely not many survived, or if they did make it out, they didn't make it back here and they escape through other means. The young man sits and kind of rests his head back against the inside of the van before looking over at Chochu and just offering out a hand. My name's Ben.
She'll look at the decrepit form and say, Ben, you're going to need a little bit more toughening up.
Yeah, don't I know it?
You can't be. You can't be over 10 years.
I was embraced 2 summers ago. Kind of says with a smirk.
She will laugh to herself a little bit. Say, folly of youth. It was around before all this Camarilla and Sabat crap. Back when they first came to this world. None of these sides existed. But still, people always sought to invade what wasn't theirs, knowing when to retreat. That'll keep you alive. Balancing that with your honor, that's the hard part.
Honor nothing, I just wanted to help. I thought maybe with people like you and Roderick at our side, we might have pulled this out and I could have just offered support. But I guess that didn't really happen.
Doesn't matter how strong you are. When you're facing waves and waves of Spaniards or Sabat, there's only so much you can do before you're surrounded and swarmed like spiderlings.
I don't know what's going to happen now, but I promise you that if we're able to retake the city, you won't have to cover my ass again.
I don't do it because I have to. I did it because, well, it amused me at the time.
Kind of looks at her with a quirked brow, trying to figure out if she's just trying to seem tough, act like she was completely disinterested, or if, maybe kinship as far as being on the same side had something to play with her decision making.
Probably a little bit of both.
He just kind of chuckles and leans back. And the events will become known to pass as the Christmas Eve Massacre, which reach out far and wide from the events of or reach far and wide through various Camarilla cities. You find out some weeks later that the Sabat had made quite an impressive feat by sending in a massive number of forces, which they were entirely fine to lose to what they knew were more experienced kindred. However, they did seem to infiltrate the city slowly but surely. Not everyone is sure how this happened, but they managed to take influence away from the infrastructure and the kindred of the city. They managed to get some of the police on their side, and in the end, they not only cut the power to the city, but made sure that the cell towers and the radio towers went down just as the Sabat main force sprang their ambush. Several weeks after that, after Prince Blythe calls in for reinforcements, the response comes back that no help will be sent, and that some big shot within the Tremere, a Lord Regent, had called in favors and boons to ensure that no help would come to the city, and likely due to the fact that the previous Toreador Primogen contributed to the death of 5 of their esteemed members, as well as destroyed some very important research that they had been so hoping to fly back to Vienna, but was cut tragically short when an armored car destroyed the plane and thus them and the research. Louisburg is a very dull city by comparison to, well, the Big Easy. You know that Leif Erikson and Kristen Nash are still considered missing, as no one ever saw them actually die. Your associate Lila Gia seems to be one of the few that you knew that survived, though her assets were burned to the ground. Some of the kindred offer communal hostels and havens for the time being in residences that they purchased with what little funds they had. Their resources tied up in the city lost to them, for now at least. And in the months between January and April, what will Chochu be up to?
She came down here originally to kind of investigate the drug run and how it was affecting the monetary profits from the Mexican cartels, being a little bit into the street scene herself. So she'll probably see if she can't pin down any more records of that. There was a new mystery drug that was in New Orleans for a little while. So she needed to pin down who was dealing and who was doing what and who was taking away profits from the Mexicanos.
Does she decide to stay with the city? Or, well, with the kindred of New Orleans?
I mean, yeah, she's there and around until she gets her jobs done, but she's never really staying in a building or anything. If at most she might have a little bit of a street gang that kind of follows her around or associate with some of that, but pretty much always sleeping out on the sidelines in the woods and that kind of a place.
All right. Over the course of the month, the individual you met, Ben, constantly tries to pin you down to train him. He reveals later that he is actually a gangrel himself, but never learned protein.
Well, she's gonna need a way to test that. Not
Well,
being
what is the
too
cruel tutelage of Chochu
Xotchitl,
going to be like?
being a Svastika, she's much more. She has this fine balance between being very zen and very religious and being just like a directed soldier, you know? I suppose the first thing she would start to try to do with him is instill discipline, instill the sense of training. It'd be like one of the first things she's gonna do with him is she'll take like the bucket of water and just have him sit there and have to like slap the top of the water for like fucking hours on end, like like one of the Asian masters would do if they were training someone, to the point of like where they're just sitting there, just, why am I doing this, But training mental discipline first and some of that physical strength aspect and the capacity to sit and wait and have patience.
He takes part in this, though it becomes rather clear, perhaps the third or second time that you do this exercise, that he gets frustrated And you can see the defiance in his eye that he doesn't want to do something as silly as this, or at least in his mind is silly, but the fact that you did save his life keeps him from opening his mouth, and he does as instructed. And he
She'll
seems to grasp the lesson after a few weeks.
presumably reflex is getting faster with that. She will now move and train him to be more alert and perceptive. Having done a different type of animal, she'll now work to teach him more of what type of animals are native to the swamp here, you know? So she'll have him go out and study alligators, just like observe everything that they're doing, like how they function, how they think, how they move around their prey, like everything that an alligator has to be. Like, he needs to go out and just spend nights following alligators around, kind of, a la Arya with the cats or someone else.
Well, for the month of January and February, there are more than a couple times he comes back missing an arm or part of his face. Around March or so, you notice that he seems to be able to see in the dark. You notice that maybe the protean blood in him is finally awakened. And after a while, he starts to convey what he notices and seems to understand their ambush nature, laying in wait patiently to strike out.
Say, as she's going through with the rest of that, just teaching him, lying, patience, waiting, observing, heightening all the rest of your senses and your smells and visions. Just also showing him how to have a mental map of everything that's in your surroundings so you know when something is amiss. But also, while doing that, starting to teach him to learn about what types of trees are there, what types of barks and ointments and things can be crafted from different types of trees. She does have a dot in medicine and a cult as well, being a kind of a little bit more of a shamanistic type person. So what she knows is all going to be folk medicine and shaman style stuff. But starting to shift from the animal bit into becoming familiar with your surroundings, like knowing the exact sensations and textures of like different kinds of mud. He's probably learned about like 12 different kinds of mud that he never knew existed, It's like, what the hell is this boring swamp woman teaching me about all this shit? But it's the slow process of learning about the earth around you before you can become one with it.
He seems to take this to heart, and after he seems to start coming into his own, you notice that he starts to dress a little bit more like you. Um, you notice at night, or every night, he seems to shave his head in a way sort of emulating Xotchitl. And he
Comments as
seems
well
to be
that you're
taking.
able to feel more of the wind when you have less hair.
He definitely seems to be a quick learner now that he's gotten past the now that he has the mental fortitude to take part in this, and he gets that pretty much from the beginning of March onward. We come into the end of March to the beginning of April, almost to the current era.
Yeah, so she'll keep, while she's doing all the rest of that too, she'll slowly try to, instill, or at least just be talking about some of the Nuatl types of deities and entities and things. And if he asks about the little bits of like, a feather and a bone thing here, she'll talk about, you know, and the jewels that she happens to have around the neck, she'll say each different jewel on your necklace chain here is, a different kill and a different ranking within, her particular military type of thing. She'll talk about, Quetzalcoatl and the other, the feathered serpent, and how different, aspects of nature and deities may have been myths to people nowadays, but every aspect has some semblance of reality and some semblance of truth within the stories, and how applying yourself with nature will be able to make you more at one and more capable of accomplishing your goals. And slowly kind of start talking a little bit more about the Aztec faiths and things as she's going about, but not really in a converting kind of a way. Just it's a life philosophy.
One that he seems to convert to, and perhaps on the last weekend of March, he comes back to you with a kill, a large male bull alligator that had been known to frequent the swamps. Something that he ambushed himself, and he presents it to his wise Sifu.
She will, look at the gator as they go in and acknowledge it and says, "You need to make sure that you honor the animal of your first major kill. Not one piece goes to waste." And she'll make sure that they take it back to wherever they're going to go ahead and carve it up and move things around for eating and feeding. Even though they don't need to eat anymore, what she'll end up actually doing is she's very good with like skinning animals and moving things. She can take the rest of the hide and peel the hide off, set it up to dry on a tree kind of a thing, so that you're able to eventually get the skin. But the rest of the meat and things, after draining the rest of it of the blood, move it to put in smaller packaging so that she can actually give it to one of their mortals to be able to use as food or food bank kind of a thing. She's got one particular Catholic church that she's been going to sort of frequently, and has the nighttime person who works in the food area, for food pantry and donations and things for poorer families, and it tends to be a kind of a Hispanic neighborhood, brings what they've hunted and killed to that church to be able to use the animals fully and offer it back to those who are less fortunate.
Right.
So she makes sure he knows how to do all of those kinds of things as they're maneuvering.
When it comes to using parts of the gator, he makes himself a necklace, and he'll actually carve up one of the largest teeth of the alligator to present to her with an intricate carving of the feathered serpent as a gift to her. And that brings us really up to the current nights. And soon, Prince Blythe has informed everyone that there will be an Elysium to be held soon, now that there has been an influx of individuals that are willing to help.
So she'll go as well, and the hierarchy pretty much of how they, dictate upperness in jewels and gems and things like that. The war heroes were allowed, more jewels and more stunning clothing and thing, but she will actually end up kind of presenting him after the first kill, that kind of is like you get to go up and be a man within society, which is what she pretty much has always done. I mean, she'll end up having told him that back in her day, women were not allowed to do any of this, so she ended up masquerading as a man and joining the Aztec army as a mortal, before getting turned and getting noticed. And she will have created a gold ring, just with a set with a a stone that's going to be something from down here. So maybe like an onyx stone or something, something smooth, pretty plain. But after the first, kill, kind of growing into manhood, say one of those ones, I was presented with something similar after getting my first kill. The rest of my people may be dead, but the traditions do not need to stop. And will, present him with, the ring object.
And he'll take it, um, kind of in awe, and well, he's still on humanity, so he gets a little choked up, but he seems to be gracious, and he thanks her profusely. I uh, I don't know what to say.
You don't need to say things. It's more about being. Don't need to talk like all the rest of these Camarilla do. They miss a lot because they don't listen.
Well, hopefully I'll see you at the Elysium then.
We'll see. It's not quite my forte.
Well, you don't have to go there and say anything. You can just go there and listen.
Think about it.
He just kind of smiles at her. And I think there we can call the end to our first episode of the revival of New Orleans by night. Thank you for watching.